missing someone. Love with all your heart. Missing someone. Love with heart.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So this week I have a transformation for you guys. So this client is a client of mine who has been coming to me for a while. We have been highlighting her roots, and her ultimate goal is to be more on the gray silver side. So a little quick backstory is she's been coming to me for a few years now, and she has always kind of gone back and forth with going like kind of gray and silver. And then one time she came in and she wanted to go completely black from wanting to be silver for so long. So I was very reluctant to give her like a permanent black or do like a black that wouldn't be able or allow her to change her hair in the future. So for example, like if I were to do like a toner or a demi-permanent that would tone her hair to be black, it would have been almost impossible for me to change her hair after that, because most of the time whenever a client has previous highlighted hair and they ask to go darker, especially like a color that is so dark and close to like a level 3 or 4, it's like nearly impossible or just really not a good idea to lighten them when they have previous highlights, because even though you darken the hair that is already blonde, it technically doesn't make those hairs healthier. So if you were to strip that dark dye out from the pieces that were covered that were blonde, it could potentially really damage their hair. So majority of the time I will tell my clients that they will have to grow that part out, or if I get a new client who comes in and they've done that where they have previous highlights and they've gone as dark as like a level 3 or 4, I normally will turn them away, because it's never really a safe or good idea to highlight over that when their blonde highlights have already been darkened so dark. So since this client has been coming to me for a while now, I kind of got a sense of her personality and what kind of client she is. And in my opinion, she was just the type of client that loves to change her hair. And I wasn't fully sure if she was going to be fully committed to growing out her hair if I were to darken it all the way. Only because of based off of her history and her past appointments with me, and the fact that she's always wanted to maintain like a silver gray. And you know, going dark like that is the complete opposite. And a lot of times when clients come to me that they've been coming to me and I've been blonding them for so long, majority of the time if a client wants to go darker, I usually will do like a medium brown before we go fully like level 3 or 4, which is like a dark brown to black, because majority of the time if a client wants that and they're so used to being so blonde, they instantly regret darkening it. But that way, if I were to darken them to like a level 6 or like a medium brown, opposed to like that level 3 or 4 where it's like really really dark, it's a little bit easier to lighten out the medium brown compared to doing like a really dark brown to black color. And that way you can kind of like easily transition them and then make sure that they really want to go dark, because a lot of times these clients have hair past their shoulders, and if they want to maintain that length and ever want to change their hair, to be honest, it will literally take them about like 3, maybe even 4 years to grow it out, because your hair only grows so much in a year. And if you want your hair to stay long, that's honestly how long it takes for the hair to grow out if you have previous highlights and you darken them. It's just never really a good idea to relighten hair that has been so silver and then darkened. So with that being said, since I knew that she might down the line change her mind, I told her that there was an option that we could do like a black from a semi-permanent line that would fade more like a fashion tone. So the black dye that we used to previously color her highlights is technically like a direct dye that goes on hair. It could be wet or dry. It's recommended to put it on dry, but it does fade quite fast. And the one that I used specifically was more blue based. So as it faded on her, it did fade a little bit greenish, bluish, and purple depending on the level of the highlights. And I let her know that she would have to touch it up, but it still gave us room to lighten it out in the future, because removing a semi-permanent like that is a lot easier to remove compared to like a permanent color or even like a demi-permanent. So within that year, we had refreshed her direct dye semi-permanent color. Specifically, I used the Pulp Bright Noir, which is their black direct dye. And we probably did about 2, maybe 3 refreshes before she was like, okay, I want to go back to blonde or even silver. And I told her that it would definitely be a process, but it might be doable because we were using a direct dye. So fast forward, right now the session that you're seeing me highlight is technically, I would say, I believe this might be her second or third session trying to remove the noir from her hair. For those of you guys who don't know, if you've never removed noir, which is the black semi-permanent dye, it does lift out like hot pink. So the first time we were trying to remove it, she had to live with basically a magenta type of color, because that was the lightest that it lifted to. And then once that color fades out, we're able to slowly lighten it, but still maintain the integrity of her hair. And her hair, after these sessions of trying to lift out the noir, still felt great. Like you'll see at the end of this video, her hair still looks super healthy. The noir is still a little bit stubborn, but at least it does get a lot lighter than she did coming in, and over time she will be able to get to her goal, which is to be lighter and a little bit more gray and silver, opposed to if we, from the beginning, when she wanted to go black or go back to her natural color, if we had put like a permanent color or a demi-permanent color to tone everything down, I definitely would not have taken her until all of her previous highlights had grown out, because before all that she used to be silver. So underneath, if we had darkened her to a level 4 with permanent color or demi-permanent color, it would have been really unsafe to lighten those previous highlights. So now that I've told you her color history, I'll quickly go over my technique for this. So the first time that we tried to remove the color from her last appointment, I believe I did a very heavy highlight. So now I'm going in and doing another very heavy highlight to technically get her as light as possible. I am trying my best to slice and pick out all of the dimension that I left out last time, and trying not to overlap on any previous highlighted hair. And also when I'm taking my sections, you can see that I'm trying to be as careful as possible and taking very thin sections to where I get a really nice, clean, even lift. As far as the products that I'm using, I am using the Blonde Me Sports Coif Lightener, and I normally do a lower developer for the first bowl around the nape and the neck, and then for the rest of the head, I pretty much just did 20 volume throughout the entire process. So since this appointment is continuing to get her as light as possible, my spacing on my foils are going to be very close together because I want her to be as solid as possible, especially within the first couple sessions of going back to more of a silver color. On dark hair, the only way that the hair will really look super light and silver is if you try and get as much dimension out as possible. But later along the line, if she ever feels like her color is way too solid, we can definitely start to blend her roots and leave a little bit more dimension once her ends look fairly solid and she feels like she's at her goal. So my placement of foils, I pretty much just outlined the nape of the neck, and then I take a center parting throughout her head and take that all the way to the front of the face, connecting the back and the front money piece. And then I do 2 foils on the sides of the money piece of the hairline to kind of frame the face a little bit. And then to top that off, I finish it off with the sides. So I will do pretty much the same type of weave pattern. I'm just slicing her hair and trying to get rid of most of the negative space and dimension. There you can see it's a pretty thick piece of dimension that I'm painting, and I'm trying my best to pick out any previous highlights so that we're only lightening the hair that needs to be lightened. So based off of her color history, I already kind of know that her ends are going to be stubborn, and I want to take it really slow to lighten out the Old Noir. So after I'm done foiling her roots and getting that part out of the way, I am going to tip out her ends and try to lighten up the pink that has faded quite a bit to lighten it up a little bit more. And honestly, this part is just going to be a slow process. I always let my clients know that removing semi-permanent dye, if it's like an unwanted color, it can definitely take a few sessions to get out because you have to work on canceling out the color before you get back to blonde, especially if you've done like a very pigmented or dark vibrant color such as noir. So in the end, we are going to be toning her with like a gray silver toner, but she understands that the ends might still be pink and will definitely be a process to fully remove all of the dye out. So now that I've highlighted all of her roots, I'm going back in and I'm using some cream bleach. I chose to use cream bleach over the other lightener that I was using for her roots because I find that cream bleach is a little bit more gentle, and the fact that cream bleach is more white, it's really easy for me to see how light the hair is lifted to, and just makes it more visually easy for me to know when it's all ready. So I'm going in with cream bleach and I mixed that up with 6 volume, and then I added some Olaplex just for extra insurance because again, her ends are previously highlighted and lightened, so I want to be super careful, but at the same time I want to try and lighten it up and try to get rid of some of the pink that is on her ends. And you know, this part where I'm tipping out her ends, I wouldn't recommend on every client. I would do this based on the client's hair and the health of it. If the client's hair feels way too dry or in my opinion feels like it can't take this part, I definitely wouldn't do it, and I would just keep toning to try and cancel out the pink. But her hair was fairly healthy, so I felt like her hair could take a little bit more lightening to get rid of some of the pink, so that's why I went ahead and chose to tip out her ends a little bit for a few minutes. So here you can see I lifted her roots to pretty much like a level 9 and 10. So we're going out and removing her foils and just kind of rinsing wherever it's ready. So at this point, I'm checking every quadrant of her hair to make sure to rinse out the product where it's fully lifted to, and wherever it needs a little bit more lightening, I just kind of let it sit. And most of the time when a client's processing and I have pretty much rinsed out, I would say like a third or even half the head, that's when I go ahead and start to pre-mix their toner. So for her toner, I will be using some rapid toners, and I find that sometimes the rapid toners from Pulp Riot can affect the natural in between the highlights. So I always like to pre-mix that, because I feel like sometimes if you mix the rapid toners fresh and you don't let it sit for a little bit, it can bump the base a little bit. And when you're doing like a really ashy or smoky tone, if you bump the base, it can add a little bit of warmth to the hair, which I don't love. So I always like to air out my rapid toners before applying it to the hair. So right now you're seeing that the hair has already been separated. So I rinse out those highlights that I did, and now I'm just going in, and since the hair is already separated because I've pretty much tipped out the hair that was outside the foils, so now I'm going in and just putting a little bit of lightener on the ends of the hair that was in the foils, because I wasn't able to tip them out as they were in the foils as the roots were getting highlighted. So for her toner, we did a demi-permanent root color, and we did a 6-1, which is a level 6 ash. And then for her mids and ends, we are going to be going over and placing the rapid toners from Pulp Riot, and I did a mixture of silver and violet to create more of a violet gray tone to help cancel out a lot of the warmth. Alrighty guys, so here is the finished look. We were super happy with the progress after we got from this session, and she is so much closer to getting to her goal. We were really able to lighten out a lot of that pink on her ends, which next time I have a feeling like as she washes her hair from here on out till her next session, a lot of that pink will continue to come out as she washes it, and it will be so much easier to kind of get her a lot more even next time. Obviously, yes, there is some pink still in her ends, but my main focus was to keep her hair healthy, which it totally is, and we were able to pretty much tone her to be somewhat close to the goal that she is wanting in the end. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, or it helped you a little bit. If you've ever came across this type of situation with your clients and you weren't sure that they would totally love going black, now you know that there's an option that you can use, like a direct dye / semi-permanent, to temporarily darken their hair, and it would still be a lot easier to lift out that color compared to like a permanent color. And just a quick disclaimer, I don't do this for everybody. I just had a really good feeling that she would want to go back to silver and gray because she's been my client for so long, and that's the reason why I chose those products. I do have other clients that, like, if they came to me and they wanted to go back to their natural, I totally would, but because I know her and how she is, that is why I chose this type of journey for her and why we chose these steps, because I had a really good feeling that she was going to ask me to go back to blonde, and I'm super glad that I trusted my gut, because here we are lightening her and she's really happy that we did this route instead of doing the permanent color dye. Alrighty guys, so that is it for this week's video. As always guys, thank you guys so much for watching and tuning in, and I will talk to you guys next week.